Hello, I'm Monique. Sorry for the delay. There's a bit of a technical snafu, the technical term. So I'm on the board for Canadian Association for Equality in Calgary, and it's a Canadian organization that's based out east in Toronto, and they focus on gender issues, but they are working more on men and boys just because it's kind of the marginalized gender issues and stigmatized gender issues. So we hear a lot about feminism and women's issues, but we rarely hear about some very relevant issues that affect men and boys. And in with the women, like where we are men and boys that surround us, we have concerns for their well-being. So it's important that everybody gets involved, right? So CAFE's official mandate is committed to achieving equality for all Canadians, regardless of sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, family status, race, ethnicity, creed, age, or disability. And I'm Monique, and that's my Equality Canada email, and that's the picture I use online quite a bit, so that's how you can recognize me online. We have other members of CAFE that are on the board here. We're recruiting right now volunteers, and we have an event coming up in January because we really do need the help. Like we just started last year in Calgary, and the work's already ramping up, and it's on a volunteer basis. So if you're interested in volunteering, you can contact Danny, sitting right over there. But yeah, so he runs the men's support circle. So right now we're at the library. It's very public, and this would be the advocacy side of it, like the educational side of it, the public awareness side, which is very important if you want to raise awareness in the community and point out the issues so that we can get resources allocated to these issues. But there's a men's peer circle, which is more private. Come on in, come on in. And Dan runs that. He's a PhD in psychology, and it's a men's peer circle, so they'll be sitting around in a circle. It just seems to work better for the more private issues. Instead of counseling or traditional counseling methods, the men's peer circle seems to work really well for them if you want to work through your issues that way. So again, this would be the advocacy side, the educational side, and that would be the private men's peer circle. And there are no women there, just because the dynamic seems to change with men when there's a woman present. So they, for men to kind of work through their issues as a peer group, a supportive peer group of men. Yeah, that's what Dan runs, if you're interested. And Carol Hoover, she works on the board with me, and she is a great lady. Right now she's working on generating a group of supportive psychologists in Calgary that agree that men have issues too, and that they would be willing to work pro bono. So that's what she's doing for us right now. So I'm going to do, because I went to the Honey Badgers trial last week, I want to go over that because it was such a, it's been such a, a saga in Calgary for the last couple of years. So I just wanted to tell you about that, and I'll end that way. But I also had originally planned to do men in the criminal justice system for this meeting, so I'll just go over both. Hopefully it won't take too long to get through both, and then there'll be a period where we can do, we sit around, and like last time we sat around in a circle, and you guys can share your thoughts. If you have anecdotes or you want to, it really helps to make sure that we tell each other what's going on. And I find that many of us with these issues, we think we're the only ones that are experiencing it. And the media has kind of educated us or brainwashed us to think that only women's issues are mattering, and that if you have a men's issue, it's only you, and you're just a bigot or whatever. But so I find it really validating to come here and sit in the circle and talk about what's happening to us, and then you find out that you're not alone, and this is actually affecting everybody. So just seeing each other, and I see you, you see me, we're both struggling with the same issues for men's issues. They're both affecting both our lives, so just that validation. It's a civil right that we have the right to assembly, and that's the reason why is that it helps us not be isolated, and that we can push back against policy or any groups that are permeating feminism, for example, that are permeating education and policy right now. So we have a right to public assembly, and that's why we're here. So I'll start in on my research on men in the criminal justice system. You probably wonder why the criminal justice system would affect men more. Well, it's we hear about the wage gap for women, which is not really true, by the way. No reputable economists take that seriously. Men and women do get paid the same amount. But you never hear, like, you don't hear men complaining a lot about their gender disparity, which is that men are 165% more likely to be convicted than a woman for the same crime. So if you put a man and a woman in front of the judge, the man is 165% more likely to be convicted. And there's a clear gender bias across all civilization that, you know, we have a, and, you know, I think there's a biological reason for that. But so this is an issue that you would say affects men, right? If it's always happening that, you know, it's very clear that men are convicted more than women, and then it's a men's issue, right? And also, if men do get convicted, they're also going to get 63% longer prison sentences than women for the same crime. So these are hyperlinks. I usually post my my presentation on the Meetup link afterwards if you want to look into the resource that I got this from, like where am I getting my sources from. And so if you would like to look into the link, I'm not sure if the, whoops. If you want to click on the hyperlink when you get home after I upload this, you can do that. So I was just thinking about some of my other research too. I posted this other link about an in-group bias. There's a study done in 2004. How many times have you heard that there's a patriarchal conspiracy and that the whole civilization is catering towards men to get ahead against women? Mm-hmm. Well, the science says that's just not true. The science says that there's an in-group bias between women. So me as a woman, I will be biased towards other women. And as a man, I would be biased towards women too. So men have no bias towards each other, and women are also biased towards each other. And people have, you know, speculated, well, what's the reason that we would be programmed to work that way? And I think it has a lot to do with evolutionary biology, or, you know, back in the day when we only had 6,000 people and there was a population crisis and we were going to go extinct, it would be a survival tactic to have a preference towards people with a uterus, you know. So I think that we're programmed to put women and children first. And so, but we are still programmed that way even though we're living in 2017. And so the reason why I posted that link is I think, I wanted to think about why would this be that we would have like a universal bias against men but for women in the criminal justice system, and I think it has something to do with our biology. So I just brought that up because I think it connects to why we have a bias towards women. So like I said, I posted links if you want to go take a look at it later. But so that's the issue. That's the argument why this is a men's issue, the criminal justice system. And some people have suggested that women get a break in the criminal justice system when they get, for the same crime, like why would they get off or why would they get only community service? It's because they have a caregiving role, they have children sometimes. So that's the excuse that because this woman has responsibility to take care of children that she should not be imprisoned. And that might be a good reason. It's debatable. Like I could say that men could be good caregivers too, but definitely that's one reason that's given, right? And so when I go into Google search, like the first thing I did, Google search, men in prison, you can see my search there, men in prison, and the topics that come up for like thousands of pages were all had to do with men and sex in prison. Like that was like, you can see the first two hits here had to do with sex, right? So like it was hard to get around that if I was going to research men in prison, I was going to have to deal with the sex issue, because that's like #1 hits, right? So I just wanted to show that to you, that's what I got when I put men in prison. That was my Google search. So that's why I'm going to break into that topic, rape and sex for men in prison. So I don't know if you saw Lauren Southern. Lauren Southern's very famous video she did about 1.5 years ago. She works for Liberal Media now, but she's a student. She's about 22, 23 years old. And she did a very, very controversial but very successful video on why she's not a feminist. And I just kind of screen capped it here. The very first point she brings up, her list of arguments why she's not a feminist is that about men being raped in prisons. And so, which is interesting because that's almost the Google hits also talked about men and sex in prison and rape, right? So she says between 100,000 and 140,000 men in prison are raped every year, and that's in the US. She said that's more men raped than women raped. So just to point that out, there are, in the Western world, like arguably there are more men raped than women, because if you count the prison system, that's, like So if we're going to talk about a rape culture, as feminists like to point out, that that's debatable if you want to say there's a rape culture on campus. But I would say, based on like actual evidence and statistics, like about where people are being raped, would be in the prison, and that would be men, right? So, so that would be, if there's an actual rape culture, it would be in prisons. And it's a human rights concern for men, right? They're being confined. Probably, if they're criminals, that might be necessary, but they shouldn't be assaulted and raped themselves. Like, that's very barbaric, right? So I did some more research after got through all the sex stuff, but there are some, you know, like I didn't want to go too much more into it. Like, it was pretty gruesome, the sex stuff, but I just wanted to point out that they are raped, and I thought that would be enough for this presentation. Men in prison. So I wanted to talk about FASD and brain damage in men in prison. So I learned about fetal alcohol syndrome disorder about 1.5 years ago when I was doing some other kinds of training, and I didn't really know much about the condition, but most people know what it is. It's when the fetus has exposure to alcohol before they're born, and it's permanent brain damage, right? So the question is, well, what effect does that have on the child, and then what happens to them when they grow up? Like, what is the brain damage? And the features of people with FASD, they don't always show it, like you can't see it on their face or their physical ability, but it's neural and like neurological and brain damage. And for personalities, like traits that you see in people like this, like I noticed that they have a really hard time with ownership. Like they'll see a bowl on a table full of candy and they think they can take the whole bowl of candy. And they don't understand that because nobody's owning it at the time, like it's just really hard to explain ownership to them, and so they think they can take the whole bowl, and they don't understand the subtleties of social interaction, the way that you kind of have to leave more candy for other people later, like because they think because it's just left there that they can take it all, right? Same with a bicycle damage, you understand, right? So, so it's understandable why a lot of people with FASD would turn up in very high percentages compared to the rest of the population. You know, in prison, there's a disproportionate amount of men with FASD. So that raises the question, like, if you know the features of people with FASD, you know they have problems with ownership, that kind of says, well, maybe their prison isn't the right place for them because they have brain damage, but people don't even know they have brain damage. They're going before the court and they don't have the social skills to, you know, to even explain what happened. Like I know, like another feature with FASD is they have I noticed that they have a really hard time explaining themselves. They can't just verbally tell someone, and they're also very, very likable and eager to please people. I mean, if they're part of a social group, they are the most likely to be manipulated because they're so eager to please that it's very easy to send them as kind of a stooge into a situation that they don't understand, and be the one that's going to rob the liquor store because they're eager to please, right? And then afterwards, when the consequences come, they can't explain to the judge what happened. They were the ones that, you know, being manipulated. So if you see all these features of FASD and it's a legitimate brain damage and it's not their fault, it's easy to understand why they would end up in jail. So that's the reason why you see a disproportionate amount of FASD in men in prison. A Yukon study found that 17.5% of prison inmates had fetal alcohol syndrome, and that was compared to about 1% of the general population, so a disproportionate large amount of FASD in prison. And you know, that's a moral issue, like do they really belong there if they have brain damage, right? So yeah, I wrote down some characteristics that I saw of FASD and why I think that would lead them to end up in jail when they don't really belong there. But I can put the link later in there before I upload it. So brain damage in general of men in prison, staggering number of inmates, maybe not FASD, but some sort of other brain damage. So there's a link here to the study. Over a 2-year period, your graduate student assessed 80 inmates, but there was more studies, pilot studies. They found that 96% of inmates had moderate or severe brain damage. That's a huge amount compared to 6% of the general population. So these guys in prison actually have like visible brain damage. You can find it on an MRI. A huge amount of them, 82%, and then a 2007 study found that female inmates found that it was 87% of them had brain damage. So it's outrageous that these people like have something wrong with them, that they actually cannot function and navigate the life, or like they don't have the skills, like they're actually disabled and they're ending up in a place that's going to get them raped, It's outrageous, and it needs to be addressed, and it is a human rights issue, obviously, for men, because they're disproportionately put in prison over women. So I talked about most about like Western, like the U.S. and the Canadian prison system. The U.S. system, like I said, it's quite barbaric and draconian. But there was this prison system that I thought was pretty interesting. It was the Norway prison system. I just brought it up as a positive note to talk about, like, to end up with the prison system. It is the most successful prison system, with only 75 out of 100,000 behind bars, compared to the U.S., where you have 76.6 arrested with, Okay, so in Norway, for the total population, they have in 100,000 people, 75 of them are imprisoned. But if you go to the U.S., it would be 707. So they're successful because they have less people going to prison in the first place, which is good. But it's not because they have less, they're just ignoring the crime. Like, they also have a very low crime rate. So, and then also, they also have one of the lowest recidivism rates. So when someone goes to jail there, they don't go back. Only 20% actually would go back. But if you go to the U.S., if you release someone, there's 76.6% likely to be arrested again. So it doesn't work. So what is the reason why Norway's prison system works? Like, it's actually helping total crime rate. People aren't getting hurt. There's less violent crime, and their criminals don't do it again, and less people are going to jail. So why is it working? Because they're not focusing on revenge in their criminal systems. Like, if you see the picture there, it looks like a nice clean room. They have a window with no bars. They look out onto a garden. They're treated like human beings, and they're treated like they might actually have a brain disorder, and they focus on rehabilitation and not revenge. So the punishment is being confined, but not brutality. And they're trying to actually put an effort in, they're not trying to get back at these people for the crime, but they're trying to rehabilitate them. And that's why when they leave the prison system here, they're not doing it again, because they've been treated with some decency, and they've learned to respect, and learn some skills. And there's a kitchen there, and they learn like skills on how to get along with people. There's a friendship between the guards and the inmates, so just treating them like human beings, and that seems to actually work. And I really, advocate for this system just because it's working. Isn't that the goal, to lower the crime rate and not have them do it again? I would say that that's more important than revenge. For everybody's public safety, right? So, and plus, the gentler approach seems to, if these inmates do have brain damage in the first place, that might actually be the right way to handle it. Even though they maybe have done something horrible, but what's the goal? Do you want them to stop doing it, or do you want them just to make people angry again, right? So yeah, that's Norway's prison system, and I put a link there between the Business Insider. There's a bunch of information online, but I put my link on there where I got my research on the Norway prison system. Okay, so we'll talk about the Badger trial updates. I don't know if you know the background of it, but basically what happened about a year and a half ago in 2015, it happened in Calgary at the Comic-Con festival, and it kind of blew up all over the internet. Everybody was talking about it. There was, well, I don't know if you know the honey badgers, but they're a very popular vlogger and a bunch of women, basically, that advocate for men's rights. And it's, obviously they cause a lot of controversy because they're apostates of what they're supposed to do, right? Like, advocate for women. But they walked into, they rented a booth at the Comic-Con here in Calgary in 2015, and Allison, one of the honey badgers, she went into one of the panel discussions, and the idea of a panel is obviously to discuss and ask questions, right? Basically, she disagreed with the panel that she just raised a question. She wasn't harassing, but she basically disagreed with the fundamentalism of feminism, and she said, well, I think men have, to paraphrase her, she thought that men have issues too, and that women aren't always victims, and we can be powerful. And for that, all hell broke loose, and they were kicked out, and it was pretty ugly, and they called her a harasser, they called her this and that, like all these names. And the Mary Sue at Feminist blog, they totally said some horrible things about her. So the trial is because she can't sell her comics anymore because she's been banned for life from all Comic-Con in Calgary, in Canada. That really hits her financially, right? Because just for having an opinion, she's been banned from her livelihood. So they're suing, the Honey Badgers are now suing Comic-Con and Mary Sue for injurious falsehood, which means it's not defamation, which is against your character, but injurious falsehood is against your business, and people telling lies about your business so that you lose like a substantial amount of money, and it's breaking her business for the rest of her life just for saying what she's thinking. And it's absolutely disgusting in modern times. People are being punished for speaking out loud and disagreeing with feminists, right? So that's the trial, and she has to sue because she spent $20,000 publishing these comics that she can't sell anymore. So it's really just getting back the livelihood that she lost. So that's what she, and like they publicly defamed her and called her like a woman harasser, like all these really emotive things, and called her a rape apologist, which is nonsense. But yeah, she's just trying to get back for small businesses so that you can't just kick someone out just because they don't agree with your theology, right? So, but I'll let you watch the video. So I went to watch the trial on the 12th and 13th, which is downtown. So they're going to have another trial on November 20th, so you guys should come if you want to come see that. I thought it was pretty good. What happened this time? There was Mary Sue and Comic-Con filed a summary to dismiss, like just kind of throw it out in court because they didn't want it to go into a big discussion, obviously. And that's pretty common in court cases when you're being sued. You try to get the whole thing dismissed. They did every like dirty trick I could see, and it took like a day and a half to get through like every typo and anything they could find to kind of get the case dismissed. But so that was really grueling. But no, the judge decided after hearing all the evidence that these ladies actually do have a legit case, like a human rights case. And so they booked a 3-day trial to actually go through the actual trial in November 20th. So that's going to be a big showdown. So, but I'll let Karen. She's one of the Honey Badgers, a friend of Allison. She did, I linked to her video, so if you want to watch it later, the whole video, you can watch that, but it's right there. But I'll just put I just edited this part out so you can see what she has to say about the trial. Oh no. Oh no, it's not going to work. Darn it. Mine was working fine, but I had to switch to this one. That's too bad. Okay, well, I'll let you guys, I'll just keep it here if you want to download it and watch it later, or just kind of watch it over my PowerPoint. You can do that on your own time. So, so that was there, and then the Honey Badger did a podcast right after the trial. Like that was, she talked, like in the previous video, she talked about like all the details of the case, but this was just their commentary afterwards. And I spent a lot of time editing this, so I was hoping that I could show you, but like I said, you can watch this when you get home. So I watched a day and a half at the courthouse, watching them argue about a typo and every technicality the Mary Sue and Comic Expo could find. We only got through the summary dismissal, which was denied, which is good. That means they have a real case. And not only did the judge decide that the Honey Badgers have a case, but there was a claim that they wrote, like how they were wronged, and the judge didn't erase any of it. He said, yeah, this can all go to court. So that was good. They had the whole case was accepted. They didn't have to edit it, or and they didn't have to capitulate to anything politically correct either. Like the Mary Sue and the lawyer for Mary Sue and then was telling the judge that, oh, like they were harassing us, and then the judge was like, well, where's your evidence? And they didn't have any. So that was really good, and finally seeing someone actually, like, you can't just say that they're harassing you, you have to actually prove it, which is really nice because, like, so far, they've been treated pretty badly with no evidence at all. Like, it was just like a very fascist, so it was just nice to see a judge want to see some evidence before you slander someone like that. And I saw the original footage of Allison asking them, and it's ridiculous. Like, disagreeing with someone or like that's ridiculous. And the lawyer, he was also very emotive, like saying they had pro-rape material, which was nonsense. Like just all these slanders that coming out that were absolutely not true. But it was, yeah, like I said, it was nice to see that the judge asked, well, where's your evidence? And there was none, so that was good. So yeah, the trial will take place over 3 days from November 20th. So like again, if you want to follow the Honey Badgers podcast, I'm sure they'll tell you which courtroom it's in. So if you're, it's a public proceeding. Also, all the public court documents, like the affidavits that they filed, they're all public documents too. So if you want to read any of that, it's all like public exposure. And they're actually really happy if you guys want to read it because like, if people just go over the case, I mean, there's a lot of negative slander of them, so they're quite happy if you want to go and take a look at the actual facts and not just accept whatever the media is telling you, right? So you're welcome to go to this proceeding or read any of the documents. Okay, and then after the trial, I was talking to Karen, because I kind of got to hang out with them, and the honey badgers flew in from like their different places, because they were all had to be ready as witnesses if necessary. But actually Craig over there, he was there with him, and I met him at the house, and so yeah, Karen is so nice, she invited us all to go hang out at the house afterwards, and so there's me in my honey badgers t-shirt, and I have it signed by all the honey badgers, as you can see. And so they flew all over the world, and yeah, it was nice to have all the shots. But actually, I got this shirt over Christmas. Allison had sent it to me, so that was pretty cool. So yeah, that's evidence that I was at the house. And yeah, so my favorite YouTube channels discussing fact-based gender politics would be Karen Straughan, as you saw she was in the background there, you see. Whoops. And then the Honey Badgers, obviously, and then the Cafe YouTube channel. And they post, like I'm recording this right now, but they usually post my presentation on Cafe too. So if you want to go over this again, what I've said, then I'm taping it, and I'm trying to get the sound to work too, so that it doesn't sound like crap anymore. All right, so that's it for now for me, for my part of the presentation. We have a bit of time if we, like last time we got in a circle and we all said our spiel, but do you want to have the public discussion now? So we'll just turn that off. Let's see. Is it taping off there?
Take her off, yeah.